All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Eugene Clark, and I am with the esteemed artist, Christopher Batten. Christopher, how are you?
I'm good. How's
So where
everybody?
where are you speaking to us today through this video chat?
I am in Baltimore, Maryland, where I have been living for almost 6 years now. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So let me just backtrack for a second. I know that you spent some time at the Columbus College of Art for your bachelor's, and then you also spent some time at the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, where we met. And
Mhm.
then you went on to receive your master's degree, your Master's of Fine Arts from the Maryland Institute College of Arts. So that is sort of the direction, or if we're picturing you on a map traveling, and then now you're back over on the East Coast, and as you're finding your way artistically, you've also the last few years been able to be part of a really special program. Tell us the name of that program.
So right after I graduated in 2017, I won a residency at the Creative Alliance, which is a residency program here in Baltimore. It's the same program that the painter Amy Sherrill was in
Oh
just
yeah.
before she completed the portrait of Michelle Obama. So
Wow.
so yeah, I mean it's a pretty prestigious residency. So
To
I was
know that
very.
you're following in the footsteps of someone of that stature, painter wise, that's got to be exciting.
Yeah. I mean it's like I used to go up there to visit her when she was still there. And I mean just to watch her paint was amazing. I learned a lot from her
Wow.
while she was there, and then to be able to keep things going on the painting end in the program was a privilege.
Wow. Well, now that you have this exhibition on our virtual art gallery, I thought that we would just take a little stroll through the exhibition, and I'll bring up the names of some of the pieces, and you can give us some information that we wouldn't necessarily know about the work just based on looking at it first glance. And I think for anyone that will be watching and listening to this interview with you, I'm hoping that they will have the opportunity now to explore the work through the artist's words and ideas. So let's talk about your title. The title is called Unsung, Christopher Batten. Could you explain how you came up with the title and what's behind that?
So this is kind of a long explanation, but I'll try to condense it. So growing up, I my dad is a martial artist, and he started training me when I was like 8 years old. So I've been pretty much doing it most of my life. And
Wow.
I learned a lot about fighting within that context, but then also just in life in general. Like we all have these things that we're contending against, and some of us get recognized for it, some of us don't. And
Yeah.
I started to focus in my work on people that I felt like were not being recognized for the fights that they decided to take on, whether it's making sure that inner city children get a great education, or I painted a cancer doctor. I painted, of course, my dad, who taught me a lot of lessons about fighting, and just my like nephew. I mean, I've painted a bunch of people, friends, family that I know that are just leading some fights that don't always get the attention I feel they deserve. So that's why I called it Unsung.
So you're recognizing people that through your experience of learning about the martial arts and you personally training, you were able to make a connection between what that involves and what that takes and what you go through to sort of embrace what the martial arts, because it's not just it's not just the act of fighting, but it's actually a lot of it is mental. So you're connecting that now to other individuals that maybe don't have that same background, but it doesn't matter because there's a huge correlation between how they're working and some of the things that they're having to deal with in order to achieve the place that they want to in the world of medicine, or like you said, education, and a lot of things. Is that kind of where you're coming from?
Yeah, I think that's exactly summarizes it. Like yeah, definitely fighting's just not this, it's not this physical thing, and it's really something that we do within ourselves on a daily basis. I mean, there are people, especially now with all this going on, there
Yeah.
are people who struggle to even get out of the bed, to
Yeah.
even find a reason to get up. So it's definitely, talking about that, like fighting in relation to the human experience, and like what what fights we decide to take on and what fights we decide not to. So
Yeah, something as you're talking, something that hits me is just the saying that I think might be helpful to people that are going through, especially in the paintings that you're defining the individuals in the paintings. Almost the saying of "Don't give up the fight." Is that
mhm.
something that you think about when you're working?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, just
Cool.
the the aspects of myself that I had to contend with when I was like in the ring, for example. And I learned so much about myself. Like I learned my strengths, I learned my limitations. And you have to know these things in order to make the choice to keep up the fight, So so yeah, that's definitely a huge part of it.
Well, what I love is that I feel like your paintings and you as an artist through your paintings, you're sort of uh, you're embracing or you're becoming that example that is then in turn giving other individuals that might come across your work, you're giving them permission to keep that fight alive, because sometimes you're right, we feel almost defeated in all sorts of ways, and getting up in the morning and getting those feet out of bed is one of those things. I know for me, I've had those moments, so I could right away when you said that, I was like, wow, how did you know, Chris? How did you know? But I know this isn't just about me. This is about you and the work that you are doing. So I'm gonna bring up a painting, okay? Because I know that we didn't rehearse this interview, so I wanted to just sort of bounce around and name some titles, and then as people look at the work on the site and our videos here, and they can watch it and listen, they can look at the work and sort of look at what you're talking about.
Mhm.
The warrior class tray is one that really catches my eye, and partly because these are very colorful paintings. You use a full palette, but in this particular piece, I noticed that you stuck with black and white, and it's more of a portrait, but from the side, and it's very powerful in that regard. I like the positioning, and I like the fact that you kept it value study. Tell us about your choices for doing this painting in that way, and who is Trey and the warrior class?
So Trey is a friend of mine here in Baltimore. He's an artist as well. He got his MFA from the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, but he
Ah,
does there's a lot of activism tied to his practice. And I see him and a lot of other people that I've met here as being a part of this, what I call like new warrior class, like people who are going out and not only just making art, but they're using it to make an impact on social issues and things like that. And
sure.
yeah, so I chose him as the first one. I have sketches that I'll be doing other ones for, but yeah, he just initially struck me as someone that I should chronicle for this series. And the black and white is a reach back to the story of yin and yang that I learned as a young martial artist. you know, the law of opposites and things like that. And so just trying to play with that on a more subliminal level in terms of using the black and white to make the grays and different gradations. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm playing with there.
Awesome. Thank you for some great insight. Let's jump to Frankie, Dr. Gamber. This particular piece shows this individual in what looks to be like possibly an office setting. I noticed that there's a computer screen. So is this individual, can you tell us just a little bit about your relationship with them, and also the choice of the setting in which to depict them in this piece?
So Dr. Gamber is someone I've known for almost going on like 3 years now. She's actually my boss. She's the principal at one of the schools I teach at, Bard High School Early College here in Baltimore. And she's almost like a superhero to me. Like, well, not only is you know, she's Harvard educated, and she's come back to Baltimore to like teach, you know, here. Like, she teaches in the history department at the school. She's the principal. I mean, she's always running around just putting out fires everywhere they occur. And yeah, I just marvel like the resilience that she has. She deals with a lot on a daily basis, and then she has a family of her own as well. So yeah, she's just like an amazing person to me, you know. And I'm very thankful, you know, that she hired me to teach, because teaching is something that I enjoy doing as well. And you know, she's just very methodical about the teachers that she's brought into the fold of Bard. And yeah, I mean, she's just amazing. That's all I can say, you know.
Oh my gosh, she sounds incredible. What I love when I'm hearing you describe her background, but also your relationship with her, it I can imagine that being having a connection with someone like her regularly like that, and being able to, you know, from the sidelines, see how she's able to do all that she does in the way that you describe it. Um, it's got to be not only inspiring, but also at the same time, you know, I know that for me, sometimes, you know, I get down and I think, oh, I've got all this stuff I got to do. How am I going to do it? And then I'll think about someone like Dr. Gamber, and I'll think, you know, Dr. Gamber is doing, you know, 100-fold more than me, you know, and I don't see her complaining. I don't see her, you know, failing. I see her, you know, it's the complete opposite. And so do you use that as a way to sort of propel you each day to keep the fight going?
Oh yeah, I mean, she's definitely an inspiration. I mean, and yeah, just you know, the countless others like her who, you know, who aren't in a painting, you know. But I
Right.
mean, yeah, she's like, I mean, yeah, she's definitely inspiring. I mean, and a lot of my other colleagues, you know, as well, because we have a college curriculum at the school. You know, a lot of them are also, you know, PhDs. And yeah, just looking at the things they do outside of school is amazing to me, and it definitely inspires me, you know, to keep going.
Wow. All right, I'm going to switch gears a teeny bit. Um, in the exhibition that's on our Eugene Clark Contemporary Art Gallery site, you being our inaugural exhibition of beautiful fine arts paintings. Unsung is the show, the exhibition by Christopher Batten. We're talking to Christopher. There are two pieces that really caught my eye, and it looks like they're part of a series, the Torchbearer series. So one of the things that I recognize in the 12 pieces that you included in this exhibition. And by the way, you curated this exhibition. You selected the works that would be part of this group. But these two that I'm looking at right now as I'm talking to you, I feel like the color palette is just slightly different than all the other paintings. They are portraits, but there's a vibrancy that I think you bring to the work. And then I also think that maybe there's uh, some other influences that are bringing forth these paintings in the way that you depict these individuals. So I'm interested in finding out, how that came about, the Torchbearer title, the series. Are there more paintings? And how did the shift occur to the way that you're approaching those paintings?
So those paintings, along with Dr. Gamber, were executed as a part of a series that I started last year called No Play Fighting. And
Okay.
so just briefly to explain that title, sometimes when you're training and you go to visit other gyms, there's a sign in there that says no play fighting. And it's basically designed to remind you that, training is something that you take seriously, so you don't get hurt. So that's why I chose that title as like the body of work, or to encompass the body of work. And I wanted to include myself in that body of work without doing a self-portrait.
Okay.
And so what I did is I went to two of my students, and I asked them if it was okay if I reinterpreted some drawings that they had submitted
Ah,
as a part of an assignment. And so what I did is I took their drawings and then I just like completely redrew them in like my own style. But I tried to keep like the basic integrity of their drawings so they could look at them and see themselves in it. But
wow.
yeah, it was a way to kind of put myself um in the narrative as an educator, as someone who's fighting to a certain extent,
Yeah.
like the other people in the show, but not do it so directly so that the spotlight kind of center stays on them. And
Yeah.
in this case, I definitely wanted to highlight my students and them being um, torchbearers of the things that I'm giving to them, the knowledge that I'm passing along to them. Kind of like, not kind of like, but like, just as an example, I get compliments all the time about my anatomical ability, like my ability to portray anatomy in my pieces. And like, people always ask me like, man, or always say, you must have had one hell of an anatomy teacher. And I'm like, yes, I did. I totally did, and I always tell people about you, so I mean, it's like I see myself as the torchbearer of the knowledge that you passed along to me. So, that's my way of showing my students as, having to carry that on as
Wow.
well. So,
That's I first of all, I appreciate the kind words, and I'm so happy to know that anatomy has become such a big part of what you do, and that people recognize that 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 you're implementing anatomy in the way that you are. And I think your work is a reflection of that for sure. But what you described about putting yourself into this work without necessarily putting a self-portrait and reinterpreting these works by these young artists is quite advantageous, I think, of you to take on to put yourself in almost like a vulnerable position, because when you're reinterpreting someone else's piece and people aren't necessarily familiar or understanding of where that's coming from, there can be some head scratching, because they're looking at this work, they're looking at that, right? And so
mhm,
you have to come to terms with that. Like for me, I spent so long working realistically, and then suddenly I had this shift to abstraction, and I had to come to terms with being okay with that people are going to
mhm,
be like, well, what's that, as opposed to, oh, that's a beautiful hand, like it's two different things. And so I recognize the emphasis and the sort of reason that you may have put yourself in that place. And I commend you for that, because there's a lot of bravery artistically, you're treading some different waters. And I love that about you and your work. Like, I feel like you're such a risk taker when it comes to that. So speaking of risk taking, how about Rallying for Peace, which is a great title of a painting. And then the visuals are that as well. And you have this vantage point of where almost like you're looking down at the scene. So explain the title and where did that come from?
So when I was doing, I guess you could say kind of my research for the No Play Fighting body of work, when I was going around just talking to people who were leading different fights, there is a group here called Baltimore Ceasefire, and they're an anti-violence group who hold these rallies and things to promote just a decrease in violence in the Baltimore area. And so I ended up contacting the leader of that organization, and she told me about a rally that they were having. So I'd say couple months, they have what they call the ceasefire weekend, and the objective is to basically have no violence over the course of the weekend. And it's been a really positive thing that they've been doing here in the city. So I went to one of the ceasefire weekend rallies, and one of the things that struck me actually was how many children were out there rallying for peace in their communities. I mean, it was just beautiful. Like I'd never seen anything like that. And so I just started taking like all these crazy amounts of pictures. And that painting there is actually a combination of about 6 different pictures. And I just wanted to put together a scene that kind of focused on those children and what they might be rallying for, or what they represent in terms of just like the girl kind of looking to the side. It's like I want people to think about, like, what is she looking at, like what is she looking for, like that sort of thing. So
and that's so cool, because that piece, Young Warrior in Repose, and then of course the painting of Trey that we were talking about, all of those pieces do have the person that you're painting, not necessarily looking at the viewer, but looking away. And I think that can really be powerful in the message, like you said, so that it changes the game a little bit, causes the viewer to be thoughtful in a different way. So it sounds to me, Chris, and I know you go by Christopher, but I've always called you Chris, so I hope it's okay that I'm calling you Chris right now. But Chris, I feel like you have this martial arts background, which is something new. I don't remember knowing that about you, so I feel like that's something new for me. And then also your artist background, but then there's this activist part of you that I feel like is coming through in the theme of your work. Do you want to speak a teeny bit about your activist side of yourself?
I mean, I definitely, like, I'm definitely one to notice and want to eradicate like the ills I see just good people have to face in daily life. And I'm definitely attached to that, especially as I've gotten older. I really in any way I can, I want to try to help just make life easier. I mean, it's like, because I think I think life has its own set of, or comes with its own set of complications, but all of these various isms kind of make it worse when they really don't have to, so I've definitely been focused on that over the years. And I mean, I think the greatest impact I have has been my role as an educator. But when when I can, go to a rally or, something like that, I definitely, take advantage of those opportunities.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. We just have a couple minutes left. I wanted to specifically talk about something that I notice you do periodically in your work, and especially in this piece that I'm going to mention the title, Renewal Rising. And there's a young person front and center, and the environment and what's happening behind this young person on the walls is quite riveting. I was just wondering if you could talk about the imagery a little bit in addition to the figurative aspect.
Okay, so that painting is of my niece, and one of the things that I noticed is like she's learning a lot. Like she's growing really fast, and she just represents a hope for the future. And I saw that day when I took the reference picture for that particular piece, when she came in from school and she had her uniform on, and it was just like, whoa, it was just like a light bulb came on. I was like, wow, she represents like, this notion of things could be better, if we train our children up right, things can definitely be better in the future. And so another thing that I had started with a painting before that is using insect symbolism, or
Wow.
bugs as symbols, but more so from their for their spiritual connotations, not so much like, say, Flemish painters kind of use them all in the same way to talk about the fleetingness of life and things like that. I wanted to go, I guess, a little deeper than that.
Okay.
So I chose the scarab for its ability to symbolize rebirth or renewal. And
Yeah.
so that's why I surrounded her with the scarabs. And then I wanted to create sort of a surreal situation with that. And like within her shadow, there are actually there's a blue underneath there that makes it look like it's a sky. So it looks like one of the scarabs is actually soaring over that sky. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's like a little thing that I kind of wanted to put in there. But yeah, I just want people to look at like an image like that and see the more the spiritual connotations of it, as well as just the visual harmony of it, if that makes sense. I don't know.
That makes,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm so glad that you were able to give us some words to go along with the picture. Um, you know, I was really excited in your use of symbolism in that work. And like I said, I noticed that that's something that you bring forth in other works that you have done or will be doing. And I think that symbolism can be very powerful. It's something that's been around forever. When you talk about the scarab, I think about the use of the scarab symbol, especially in Egyptian art,
Hmm.
which is a great, I think, reference place to bring that the notion of that symbol and how it's been used for so long, and the differences in how it's used, and also like you mentioned, Flemish painters, and the use of not the scarab per se, but insects particularly. But for you to sort of bring something you know uh, recent and current to the way that you see a form and a symbol like that, and then introducing it into your work, I think can be very powerful. I'm excited to think about what you might do, from this point on with that type of thing, because the interplay really causes. It's very thought provoking. And one thing that we talk about in illustration is that illustrators are storytellers. Like when you think
Hmm.
about Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling, and he's painting, these passages of the Bible, basically,
Hmm.
on the ceiling, but it's it's all storytelling, right? And so we can think of him as, in essence, an illustrator, even though he's also a fine arts painter. And so I think that it's great to see you're taking the different parts of who you are, you know, the martial arts, the illustration, the fine arts person, the activist, and then bringing that all together into this one, as I like to say, beautiful art. You just put it all in a blender and blend it all up into an artistic, creative smoothie is what I think it is. You know, we just drink it down as we're looking at your work. So yeah. So, hey, Christopher Batten, I want to thank you for joining us today for our inaugural, not only video chat, but also exhibition on Rosen Clark Contemporary Art Gallery. This is a project that is just going to support the arts of artists that are like Christopher Batten, you know, happening currently now, making art. You know, it's great to hear that some of these things you just made within the last couple of years. And, you know, this is fresh and new and exciting. And you're stirring up an energy of creativity on the East Coast that's just traveling across the country, and we love it. So, yeah, do you have any, in closing, because I met you here in the city of Detroit at the College for Creative Studies, do you have any memories before we close out, any memories of your time here in Detroit that you wanted to mention?
I mean, like, Detroit is home. I just love every aspect of Detroit. I mean, it's like the food, the people. I mean, everybody's like so hardworking. Um, and then yeah, just you know, even being at CCS, like, you know, having professors like you. I mean, you always like created a fun atmosphere. It was like we were learning, but it was fun, you know, and I really appreciate that. And that's actually something that I try to, you know, incorporate into my teaching as well. And I mean, yeah, it's just I love Detroit. Like, I'll actually be coming back for the Christmas holiday. So, and I was just there for Thanksgiving, but I'm always back and forth. I mean, I just love it. You know,
That's so
I
great.
love
Yay.
Detroit.
Well, that is so great. And I know people that are watching and listening that are from this area are going to be excited to hear you reminisce down memory lane about your time in Detroit. Well, with that being said, Christopher Batten, thank you again for joining us and for giving us some feedback about your work. And we're excited about your future projects. And look for Christopher Batten's work in our archives when his show is done at the end of January 2021. And then we will bring him back in another year after that for a whole brand new exhibition of some really extraordinary kind. So we don't know what it is, but we can't wait. Thanks, Christopher. We'll see you. Take care.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to end the recording, and then you and I can talk.
Okay.